you may be hearing cars in the background racing. And if we were to go back in time 24 years as of today, they'd be going by here, which is the old Ostkurve of Hockenheimring. So I'm on a path right next to what used to be the Ostkurve of Hockenheimring. You can see kind of where the grandstands used to be, basically right here where I'm standing. It's not accessible because this is a biotope now. And I remember last year I've seen cows walking around here. I don't see them today, but I've seen them last year. They were walking around here. And that's where the cars used to come from. Nothing resembles any visual sign that there used to be a racetrack coming from there. There was a chicane, and then this was kind of a chicane leading that you could basically accelerate, and then you get back on the straight, which will take you back to the stadium section. So this sign is basically telling us that this is a biotope, and this bird, which I don't know what it is called, resides and mates in what used to be the Ostkurve in this biotope. As you can see, it's a little bit from a different angle now. This is where the chicane was. Somewhere cars would come out of there and then basically continue that way. You can still see more or less the layout. Grandstands were everywhere here. So 24 years ago and 25 and so on, people were sitting here watching race cars go by. And in fact, today is the Spanish Grand Prix, which I will not be seeing probably, but yeah, 24 years ago, I'm sorry, there was a, well, not the exact date, but that year we would see the last Formula 1 Grand Prix before they tore it out and redesigned the track. Well, I'm sure 25 years ago, when people came here to get to the grandstands right here, I bet you they sure as hell didn't walk through this path right here, which is, it is a walkable path, but it's completely bushed up. And I'm gonna now walk alongside the old ring and take me to where the first chicane was. So when you want to visit these old Hockenheim places, make sure to bring some outdoorsy clothes and not your church pants, because you're gonna be walking basically through bushes and obstacles. These are the sort of things that you're gonna have to cross if you ever want to visit these places. I'm on my way from, hold on, I'm on my way from the Ostkurve to the first chicane, and these are the paths I'm walking on. And basically right here to my left, this is where the track used to run. The chicane was just a bit down there, and yeah, that's where it used to run. There was likely a barrier somewhere here where you could just walk up to and watch a race. Obviously no sign here that anything like that has ever existed here, and there's a lot of bugs right here, and I have probably like a mile or so that I have to walk through this high grass and these nasty things. So let's see how that goes. And by the way, this is the path you have to take if you want to see the what is it, Jim Clark Memorial, at least the original one. They put up another one, basically a substitute version right next to the track, but the one where he actually died, this is the path that's gonna take you there. So I'm still on this path, and right here used to be a straight where cars were going at full speed in F1, and now I'm here and I can't even walk at full speed. But I have found the Jimmy Clark Memorial, and it is actually still being maintained. Look at it. It is still here, and this is the original one, so this is where he perished. There is a small race car here, the ones that they used to race with during their days. That's what it looks like. So we're gonna put it back right here, and yeah, basically rest in peace Jimmy Clark, born in 1936 in Kilkenny, Scotland, and that's 1968 where he died. Right here, it says right here, so this is where he actually died. There we have some information which has seen better days. You know, weather has definitely not treated it well. This used to be a picture of him. Obviously the weather has basically dissolved the paper, and here we have a little bit of statistics. Look at that. So he took part in 72 Grand Prix. He won 25 times, 28 fastest laps, 33 poles, 11 hat tricks, no idea, I guess 3 race wins in a row. 13 times he won from start to finish, 8 Grand Slams, and this many kilometers he was leading a race. So 10,160 kilometers, that is like should be about 6,000 miles if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and otherwise it just kind of says he used to be he was a champion in 1963 and 5 Formula 1. He won Indy in 65. Yeah, in those days they were running in several race categories because the F1 season wasn't as long as it is today, right, where it goes the whole year. Basically they only had like, I don't know, 10 races in those days, and that was basically it. So they were racing in other categories as well in those days. And in 1962 and 64 he lost the championship in the last race due to a technical problem with the car. And yeah, it says that was actually his biggest opponent, reliability. It wasn't so much the other drivers. And he is the first driver that won the GP, the Watkins Glen Grand Prix in the United States with a 16-cylinder engine. That's what it says, in 1966. So he was definitely a pioneer of motorsports in his days, and he died here in 1968, I think it was. And this is where he died. So as you can see, I'm not bullshitting you that this is Hockenheim, and in reality it is a different forest. No, this is where the track used to run, and we're gonna walk up to the chicane, which I think this guy is the reason why the chicane was put there. Because if we go into the older days of this track, or even older days, there used to be this layout but without the chicanes, and then they added these chicanes to slow down the cars somewhere, because these cars were more at top speed than any, you know, velocity below that. So in order to slow it down, they put these chicanes in. And if you go into the really old days, like the 30s or 40s, this track used to look completely different. It was even longer. It was a triangular track. But yeah, you kind of just remember the tracks that you grew up with. For me, it was this one, with or without the chicanes. That does not really matter much. But yeah, if you're like probably 100 years old by now, you might be remembering the triangle track. but I don't think there's any footage from those days, because they didn't have much of cameras. F1 doesn't even have a lot of footage of, you know, races from the 50s, because yeah, radio was basically the thing back then. And this right here is where the old chicane was. There's a lake down there now, and there's a guy down there, I think he's swimming in there or something, or chilling, so I don't want to have him on camera. But yeah, that's where the chicane was. Cars were coming from there, like, then they went like this into a chicane, and they kind of came out like this to here, and would continue on that way. Good luck with that now. And here we have a small hill, which is probably related to the grandstand that used to be here, right? So the corner was basically right over here behind this hill. And hold on, let me walk up here. Yeah, and there's a lake down there. There are some people down there that I don't want to have on camera. Looks like they are not swimming there, but they are observing something. But yeah, let's go to the other end of this thing and then see it from that perspective. You know, if you put up a tarp on this, you could sit in that and watch a race. If you were sitting here, I think were sitting right at the corner. I think this is where cars would go into a corner and then basically go out again, and then continue on that way. Obviously this hole wasn't there. This is artificial, and the water, the pond, is artificial there, and I believe this is still related to some natural habitat. These people are obviously observing something, I don't know, some creatures that live in there now, because this is a yeah, natural environment now. That's the reality of it today. And right behind that hill is where today is corner 2. I'm sorry, it's corner 2. Right here behind this hill. And in the old days, all this was gone. There was forest right here. The track continued right here, where the substitute memorial was set up, so not everyone has to run into the forest. Two-time world champion, Indianapolis 500 winner, Jim Clark. That is the memorial. Lot of information here. And hold on, we have an English version right here. He died on the 7th of April 1968. A lot of information on basically what I just told you. A little bit the history of his career. And yeah, down here it says, after a replacement, blah 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 blah, the Jim Clark Memorial could not remain in its original position. Well, not entirely true. It is still there. It is just a simpler version of it. At the beginning of the former Jim Clark curve, due to the reforestation process here, since then the old track has been converted into a rest area with wetland and dry biotope, and there are also no fortified trails leading to it any longer. Not entirely true. The naturalization of the old track has ecologically enhanced the center of the hard forest. So that's the name of the forest here, right here, right? So it is not a misspelled version of hard. Yeah, so that is basically it. The memorial is still there, but they obviously mean that they were not, you know, setting up a memorial like this in the forest. And here we have some drawings that kids made, you know, Lotus type 49. Kind of beautiful when you think about that. Kids actually, you know, draw some pictures and remember a driver that was living life way beyond their own lifetimes. So yeah, so he is a tragic name that is also connected to this track. He obviously isn't the only one that has died here. Unfortunately, in those days that was a frequent occurrence. Thankfully, we are past those days. And here is also, just beside the gym memorial is another one, Bert Hawthorne. I hope I said that correctly. 14th of April 1972 at age 28. Sadly missing. Yeah, so this person right here has apparently also crashed here in 1972. And there, a little bit in the distance, we have some grandstands, original ones now, from the actual remaining track. So I don't know if that's visible. We are in the year 2025, and as of this year we still have one active driver in Formula 1 that actually got to race on this old track that we visited, and that driver is Fernando Alonso. He is the only driver that in his debut season in 2001 got to actually race on this old layout, on this layout that is no longer visible, that is a biotope now, that didn't have this grandstand behind me, because this section also didn't exist yet. This one was also set up later. He's the only driver that can tell all the other drivers about what it was like racing through these forest sections. And even other aging drivers like Lewis Hamilton, who's also in his 40s now, he also didn't get to enjoy the joy of racing on this old track. Although whether it's a joy or not is always relative, because opinions about the new track and the old track, they are mixed. So some people appreciated the old one more, some people appreciate this one more. And back then drivers have also spoken out in different ways, so there is no universal opinion on this. And yeah, perhaps somebody should ask Fernando Alonso about it. Hey, what was it like to race here? Maybe some F1 journalist or so should perhaps, you know, bring that question up and ask him, hey, what was it like? You're the only one that got to experience this track. Now this track is also off the calendar for a couple of years now, and that's a different reason. That's because of financial problems. They just can't afford F1 anymore. Partially it's related to the trouble or a consequence that they have gotten from the situation they caused with losing this and the rebuilding of the track, but also the prices have skyrocketed with F1 going to the Middle East, and they pour in so many billions in there that yeah, without government funding basically you just can't run it at a you can't make money with it. That is the problem. There is no amount of tickets they could sell to actually profit from this, and that is another issue. You know, football or soccer for Americans has the same problem, but that's a different story. Yeah, and I think I'm gonna call it a day here. There isn't really much more to see. Where the hairpin is, that is basically where the third corner used to be, more or less. So I obviously can't enter that. Track is still beside me, but we've seen I think the sections that matter the most. So bye bye. Hold it. I'm gonna give you one more thing, and that is the final straight that used to go back to the stadium section behind me, or the current layout behind me. This more or less, I don't know exactly where, but that is where the third chicane used to be. And this is the only original part of the old track that still remains today, which is a public road now, that people bike on and stuff. So it's the only thing that remains, and it's the only thing I'm walking on right now, and I'm making my way back to my own car, not to race on here, but to go back home. So yeah, now I'm gonna call it a day. Bye bye.